Welcome again to another edition of Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. My name is Roy S. Johnson, and of course, this is my son, Edwyn, and we're back once again to hash up what's happening in the world of sports from a generational perspective. How you doing, son?
Good, Daddy. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Well, of course, we got to start off by congratulating the Golden State Warriors for just emphatically winning what is their fourth title in 8 seasons, defeating the Boston Celtics 4-2, just really dominating the last 2 games. I mean, this is truly a championship caliber team. They won it since our last episode. Edwyn, tell me about your impressions of the Warriors. I mean, this is a team that really dialed it up in the playoffs. So where do they rank, and how do you feel about them in terms of the championship teams that you've seen?
They are a dynasty. They are one of the greatest teams of all time, with Chicago, with Boston, with the different Lakers, whether it's Showtime, Kobe and Shaq, with the bad boy Pistons, the list goes on of great teams in history. They are among them. Kevin Durant was on 2 of them. They won one before Kevin Durant came. They won one without him. We're going to get into later on about how this hits Kevin Durant's legacy and should he have left, should he not have left. And again, a lot of people do not like them, including myself, of the way they play. This is today's game in basketball, shooting. A lot of people don't like them. A lot of old school players will talk about they would not have won in their era, whether it's Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman, list goes on. They're always going to say that this era is better. You know, Shaq said his Laker teams would have beat them. I believe that as well. But as I've gotten older, this has been the dynasty through my 20s.
Yeah, I don't think any team in history shoots the rock better than this team. It's just the game is different, and sometimes it was hard for me to watch because guys would just come down and jack up threes. But that's the way offenses are designed. They've spread the floor. It's hard to say whether some of the old school teams would beat these teams. I don't know if they'd be able to keep up with them because the defense is just all over the floor now. And as I mentioned, really peaked in the playoffs. The teams they faced in the playoffs, they were only 4-10 against them during the regular season. So, this was a team that went through a lot of adversity over the last couple of years. Just 2 years ago, they had one of the worst records in the league. They got through the season, and that's what championship teams do. They get through the season, but they know when they have to dial it up and turn it up. And this team did that. Not only did they do it for the playoffs, but in the finals, it was 2-2, and all of a sudden they found another gear where the Celtics could not.
Yeah, I mean, you talking about the Wild Wild West. You're talking about, again, you saw the Dallas series. You saw how far that went, and even the Memphis series too. They're playing very young and very good teams, some more physical than others, and they are a little bit older too. Now, they have young players on the team like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole also, so it kind of have a mixture of both youth, age, and experience. But they're in a very tough conference with a lot of teams that are going to continue to come for them. And I think the number one team for the next couple of years that's going to be contender for them for the West is Memphis. I would say Memphis. Dallas is going to be there too. New Orleans is coming up. And then you're talking about a healthy Clipper team. You're talking about with Kawhi and Paul George being healthy. That's going to make a big difference. And then you're talking about Denver with Jokic. You still have to see what Utah's going to do because they continue to be at the same place every year. But they're tough. People are going to be coming for their heads continuously. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Christmas, we're going to see Golden State versus Memphis too. And Draymond and John Moran are already going at it on Twitter. So
my boy won't even let the Warriors enjoy their champagne. Already talking about how somebody's going to try to knock them off next year. We've got this one graphic that looks at them in the course of history, and you've already mentioned it, that this is a true dynasty. This is a team that has to be looked at as one of the great teams in NBA history, right there with the Lakers, with the Celtics, and right now for me, even ahead of the Bulls. But I think, again, this is your royalty. This is your NBA royalty right now, and so enjoy it, celebrate it. And most people are saying they are the favorite going into next season, but we'll save that for another episode, and we shall see. Now, while we're on the NBA, let's talk about a little NBA buzz. Would we be talking about the Warriors. We'll be talking about a Milwaukee Bucks repeat if Chris Middleton had stayed healthy. This is a player that got injured, I believe it was game 2 of the opening round against the Bulls. Clearly a pivotal player for him. He did not come back for the rest of the playoffs. Would we be talking about a Bucks repeat instead of the Warriors dynasty if he had stayed healthy?
Yes, we would have. Now, the Bucks may not have played as great defense as Boston, but the fact that, yes, you were there last year, you do have the experience. You're talking about them compared to a Boston team, a young, good team. They won a championship, but they don't know what it's like to be there, be at the top of the mountain, especially what Giannis had to go through, losing 3 years in a row, in the same time. He gets to the first round, gets to the second round. Oh, it's 1-on-5 basketball. He has to learn how to shoot. He has to learn how to hit free throws. Until you go through that, though, and you have that experience, but then Chris Middleton, he is the shooter and ideally the closer for that team. Mm-hmm. He's going to hit those tough shots that need to be made. So I believe, yes, if he is there, they would have repeated this year.
And I can't wait to see next season there, when he does come back, and let's all hope he comes back healthy. Milwaukee, Boston going at each other for seniority in the East. Obviously, you've got Philadelphia, you've got other teams that are behind Miami. So I think, this is going to be a great era of basketball. But right now, again, we're celebrating the Golden State Warriors. Congratulations to the Boston Celtics for reaching the final. And now, what about your boy Kevin Durant, right? I mean, he has to be lamenting the fact that he left the Warriors. I mean, he left for his own personal reasons. And right now, does he need to win another ring in order to solidify his legacy as a great player? It's not as if he's retiring anytime soon, but we're now talking about the rings. Do you think he needs to win another one in order for us to start having him being in a conversation with talking about the greatest players in league history?
Well, he's already in the conversation. He's been in the conversation, and he is one of the top 5 greatest scorers of this game we've ever seen. That's not in question at all. He is one of the top scorers with Jordan, with Kobe, with Allen Iverson. The list goes on. That's one. But if you want to talk about, if you want to talk about him being the leader of a team, and again, he was the best player on Golden State. You can make that debate. It was Steph's team. You can talk about how they won a championship before him. Then after that, first of all, they beat Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. They were up 3-1 against them, and then they went to the finals, lost to LeBron and Kyrie. But I think just to lead a new team with Kevin, Kyrie, whoever, I don't think so. I think his legacy is already set. But I get what people are saying. I get that. But I think it's set. Now, in terms of wanting to win another one and say, okay, you won this without them, I get that. I understand that.
No, I absolutely think he needs to win another title, particularly leaving a team like that. Most players don't do that. They want to get 2 and 3 and 4. I mean, look at the way Golden State and its core has really stayed together. So I think that him leaving really set himself up for, he's got to win another one to be in my book. Certainly you can talk about him being one of the greatest shooters. There's no question he's one of the great talents of this game. But in a sport where you talk about winning and the fact that he had an opportunity to win multiple rings, were it not for a decision to maybe follow the money or leaving for some other perhaps selfish reasons, I think he's got to win another one, and it'll remain to be seen whether it is in Brooklyn, which is a little bit of a disaster, or somewhere else. And while we're in Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving, again, not one of my favorite players, but people are talking about, whether he's going to move on and be traded. But who would want Kyrie Irving now? What has he done to if I'm an owner, do I trust my journey to the championship to Kyrie Irving? My answer is no. What's yours?
In the last 2 years, Kyrie Irving has missed 203 games. A certain amount of those were not based on injury. This is going to be how his mindset, what he believes. Basketball is not the number one priority for him. Not saying that he shouldn't care about other things. In today's day and age, of course, he should care about more important issues, but you still want to have a commitment to your job, and he wants to show up to work when he feels like it. I don't know any profession that you can, unless you are the boss CEO, when you can show up to work when you feel like it.
Right?
He's having practices after practice with 5 players. Do you know how disrespectful to Steve Nash that is?
Mm-hmm.
So how you wanted Kevin Durant to come, you wanted James Harden to come. You're not there. That is a part of the reason why James Harden wanted to leave. At some point in time, Kevin Durant's going to get tired of that too also. You wanted to come and you want the money. Brooklyn, if they're going to keep him, it needs to be a year-to-year basis. They should not commit to a 4 or 5 year long-term deal.
Oh, yeah, there's absolutely no way in that. And I love what you said about, having interests outside the game, having things that you care about and places where you put your resources and your time and your energy. But other great players do that and they still focus on winning. Steph Curry is one of the most community-minded players in sports, athletes in sport. He is also an investor. Got a lot, right? Yeah. And so, but he still came back to win a championship. Serena Williams, in her last few years, has been community-minded, has spoken up on issues. But every time she goes out into the court, you feel that she's given herself the best opportunity to win. So now, let's just step away from the NBA for just a second. And let's say, and stop me if you've heard this before, but congratulations to Ron Gronkowski for his retirement, his second retirement. He announced this week that he was leaving Tampa Bay and leaving a great career. There's no question about it. 4 rings, 3 with New England, and 1 with Tampa Bay, and certainly his former teammate and good friend Tom Brady, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, a position that I love and love to talk about. What's your sense of Gronkowski? And again, where does he kind of rank and rest in the pantheon of tight ends?
For me, he's a top 5 tight end of all time. He is the complete package. 6'6", 260, great blocker, big blocker, great for running the football, great to get mismatches because he is not a super fast tight end like today, but he is pretty fast for his size, can give you a lot of mismatches when it comes to DBs. But again, 4-time first team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl, 92 reception TDs, 3rd most amongst tight ends, most 100-yard receiving yards of tight ends by a tight end, which is 32. So he's, for me, top 5 with Tony Gonzalez, because Tony Gonzalez ranks very high amongst receptions and period, just receivers and tight ends. So he's arguably the greatest too. Then you have Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp is 6'2", one of the smaller tight ends. And again, he won a championship with Baltimore, won the 2 with Denver. Then you have Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is unique though because he played basketball in college also, which so did Tony Gonzalez. He was very athletic, ran a lot of quick, very routes like a receiver too. So though amongst, I would say he is fourth, maybe 3rd, because you also have to include the Super Bowls too.
Yeah, you're not gonna get much argument from Daddy on that group. Great group of athletes who helped transform that position. As you mentioned, 2 of them played basketball, so they were basketball players. So these guys were 6'6", 6'7", and really brought just dynamic athleticism to a position that was largely blocking. It was almost like having an extra lineman there for a few generations. Maybe if they caught a few passes in short yardage, situations. But these guys transformed that position into a real threat based on this guy, one of my favorite guys, Kellen Winslow from the San Diego Chargers. Really is the guy who tipped the scale and really made the tight end position a deep threat. And anybody who was around cannot forget this picture. This was the 1982 playoff game in the Orange Bowl in Miami. Talk about leaving it all on the field. He was so exhausted that his teammates had to carry him off the field after that game. So I'm putting Kellen Winslow up there partly because he was transformative, really creating the deep threat at the tight end. And also he brought it. He brought it every game. And if you watch that game and you see that image, you go, that guy's on my list. So tight ends, congratulations to Rob. I have a feeling we're going to see him back again. Even his agent said, wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. But that's his prerogative. So right now, go rest and enjoy yourself. Okay, we're doing this the day before the NBA draft. So let's talk about some of the names that people are talking about and teams. And what's interesting about the NBA draft, it's kind of transformed over the last few years. I haven't seen like superstar, like, oh, this is the guy everybody wants coming out. Now you're seeing young players, and so teams are really having to evaluate on potential, on the future, and really just make some best guesses to see which of these guys are going to be stars, not necessarily next year, but 2, 3, 4 years down the line, like a Jason Tatum, who wasn't the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft. Philadelphia passed on him, but you just never know. So, the three names that you hear about being the top 3, one is Jabari Smith from Auburn, and of course, Orlando has the top pick, Jabari Smith there in the middle. Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, he's a 7-footer. In Oklahoma City has the 2nd pick, he's on the right. And then Paulo, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly, Baguero from Duke, he's 6'10", was the best freshman in the country, took his team to the Final Four. Those are the 3 names. Is anybody going to crack the top 3, and who should go #1, Edwyn?
I think Baguero should go #1.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, I watched a couple of Duke games more than I usually do from when it was Coach K's last year. And no, he is the real deal. He is one of those freshmen that go to school, whether it's Duke or Kentucky, go there. They do have great games. And again, trying to compete through the tournament, going to have some good tournament games. But ideally, usually they're going to be the top 3 to top 5 picks. So I think he's going to go #1. It's either going to be between him and the kid from Auburn. I forget his name from Auburn.
Jabari Smith.
Jabari Smith. Because the kid from Gonzaga, and again, he does have a good skill set, can dribble at 7 foot. I just don't like his size. And again, I know guys can always get bigger through time, get stronger.
You mean you don't like he's skinny? He's not. He doesn't have an NBA body yet, right?
Yeah.
But he's 7 feet tall, and right now your 7-footers are out on the wing, so it's not like he's gonna have to go down there and fight against Shaq or Bob Lanier.
Well, Embiid is a handful though.
Right.
Embiid is a handful. Jokic mixes it up too though, so he's still gonna have to deal with guys that he cannot do anything against if he were to go up against them.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think the top 2 have to be Baguero and Jabari Smith. I know Auburn fans are hoping for Jabari because, and I heard this today, haven't been able to totally fact check it, but they'd be one of a few schools that had the overall #1 pick in the NBA, in the NFL, and in Major League Baseball. So Auburn fans are hoping for that. But either way, whether he ends up in Orlando, Oklahoma City, or Houston, which has the #3 pick, I think he and Baguero have the biggest upside. They're the ones that, depending on how they build their teams around them, we'll be seeing do the things that we're now seeing young players do in the playoffs, taking their teams step by step through the playoffs. I think those are the guys that really lead a team into the playoffs, as opposed to Holmgren, who will be a key figure, but I don't see him as someone who's leading a team in the playoffs. And also there's some wild card players. There's a couple of intriguing guys. There's a guy named Shaedon Sharpe. If you know anything about him, he's a 6'6" guard out of Canada. A lot of people are talking about him. Again, upside shooter. If you know anything about him, what do you think about him as kind of somebody to watch in the draft?
You'll be surprised because he might go top 15, top 20. You never know with a guy like him. A lot of teams could use him. I can say that, and I'm very interested to see who the Knicks will draft.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to get that steal somewhere between 12, 15, 25. A couple of other names, people to watch. Patrick Baldwin. This guy is 6'9". He was a consensus 5-star recruit, but he went to the Milwaukee Panthers of the Horizon League. So a lot of people haven't seen him play, hearing his name being talked about leading up to the draft. He's somebody else to watch. And then there's a kid named Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona, a 6'6" shooting guard. Again, people are looking at players who can shoot, who can score, not just mid-range jumpers, but guys who can bring it from the arc, who aren't afraid to put it up, and who can hit 40 to 45% of those shots. It's hit and miss when you're picking those guys, because we've seen some guys who were able to shoot in college but weren't able to bring it to the NBA. But the good thing about the draft is, this is a bunch of guys who are realizing their dream. Many of them have been working all their lives to have the opportunity to play in the NBA. They're going to have their names called, whether they're at home with their families or whether they're on site with the draft wearing the funky suits like some of the cats have done in the past. I want to get the suits back in the game. I mean, it's great that you're home with mom and dad and the family and everything, but bring the suits back. Bring these tall kids up wearing the white suits, the pink suits, bring them on stage, have them shake Adam Silver's hand, put on the cap, and talk about what it's like to have that dream. So always fun to watch the draft. We'll come back and talk about it next week, but I think we're not necessarily looking at people who are going to crack the game wide open next season, maybe not even the following season, but wait till we get to, what are we talking about? 24, 25, 25, 26. Then you'll see some of these names becoming true stars in this league. Edwyn, as always, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to future episodes. And you know what? This is our 20th episode. This is the 20th time we've done that. So congratulations to you. I look forward to another 20 more and another 20 more. We keep breaking it down for folks, giving them this intergenerational perspective. So until next time, what do we tell folks, Edwyn?
Keep balling.
That's right. Love you. Peace.